Recent poll has Biden down nearly 30% among black voters since the 2020 election. What's changed? Look at the economy. The optimal color is not black or brown, it's green. You hear me say that almost every day. Trump has gained 15 points in that time.
Black America, I got something to say. The most humiliating, goofy, unmanly shit happened. This motherfucker right here decided to take it upon himself to kiss the hands of Massa. The White House was having a Juneteenth celebration, and he thought in his brilliant mind to say thank you, Sleepy Joe. Sleepy Joe, go to sleep. Let me kiss the Massa hand. Thank you for giving us this holiday. Are you out of your mind? We all should be ashamed of this person. None of our brothers in there look manly.
And inflation is coming down at the same time. It's down 60% since last summer.
I am so sick of this turkey neck.
It is. I want to go back to the black vote because you've talked. I was listening to one of your interviews, and you astutely talk about how, from a metrics point of view, the poverty rate is at an all-time low, their wages are at an all-time high. None of it makes sense. So please explain the hemorrhaging of the black vote, particularly black men.
Well, all right. Let's start. Joe Biden has been the best president economically that black America's ever had. You can say that Lyndon Johnson had voting rights and civil rights, and Obama was a huge figure in black American history. But in terms of everything, it's hard to beat Joe Biden's record. It's hard to beat Joe Biden's record in terms of appointments. I mean, there's no one that's appointed more black Americans to more senior positions than Biden. And what's happened, I've said this before, part of it is a male problem. We have a huge male problem.
Yes, sir.
We have a huge male problem all across the board, but particularly, I hate this term, but I'll use it, communities of color, like as if all people that are not white are the same. It's stupid. And I do think, and people got a little upset with me when I told Maureen, New York Times, I think democratic culture has too many preachy females. It's too much. Don't eat hamburgers. Don't watch football. All right. Wear condom. Like, man, shit, leave me alone. You okay? I got a goddamn life to lead. Guy works at a tire repair shop in suburban Atlanta. Working 50 hours a week, making $16.50 an hour. And he wants to watch the football game. And he wants to smoke dope and drink beer. And then everybody's telling him he's slothful, and they reject that shit. And I just think some of it is cosmopolitan condensation, if you will. Like you need to lead the kind of life we lead, not the kind of life you lead. And it pisses people off.
Well, that's across the board. That's black, white. That's a big part of Trump. That's a big part of Trump.
It's Hispanic. We're going to lose Hispanic males.
Yeah.
We're going to lose them.
And that's on that male-female issue. That's on, it very much they want to see the strong, this is a generalization, but strong dominant male in a household.
Yeah, so they have nothing, right? They have nothing at all. The only thing they can admit is the reality, which is that, we're losing them. Specifically when it comes to the Latino vote. Now, again, when it comes to the black vote, what are they talking about, right? What they're talking about is, the poverty rate and unemployment and everything is great for black people. Except you got to understand, inflation has risen faster than it ever has before in recent history, okay? It hasn't been since the 70s and 80s that we've seen this type of inflation. A lot of people have not seen this type of inflation in their lifetimes. So you got to understand that you can't come out here and gaslight people and tell them that the economy is good because the government is creating so many jobs by essentially subsidizing them, right? They're creating jobs because quite literally they're government jobs. The top jobs that are being created are government jobs, like jobs for the government, healthcare, which is an extension of the government, right, so to speak, and also hospitality, which are low quality jobs. When you take into account that Biden's job growth is mainly fake and artificial, it's based off government spending, the real economy is not doing great, okay? The private sector is not doing great. This is why you're seeing layoffs all over the place, okay? With interest rates being so high, higher than they've been since the 70s, 80s, yeah, it would make sense that the private sector would be struggling and trying to save money, especially considering how money is not cheap anymore. Okay. That is the reality of the current economy. But Democrats don't want to acknowledge the reality. They rather gaslight you and to make you believe that you're the problem. You're the problem with why you do not feel like the economy is great. Biden's the best president ever for black people. What are you talking about? He appointed so many DEI hires to government positions, right? That is doing something for the black community, or at least that's what they think. But the reality is that they're not doing something for the black community. They're actually doing something for themselves, which is what Maxine Waters is going to admit in his interview with BET, in which she's going to say that, hey, DEI is important so that we can get all of these so-called minorities and black women in these positions of power so that they can go after our political opponents.
It's so important for us to fight for education, because when we do that, we can aspire to careers that will help change what goes on in this country and have a real democracy. I want to give you an example of it. Right now, as Trump is on trial, you have Letitia James in New York. Mm-hmm. You have Fannie Willis in Georgia. And you have Tanya, Chutkan, who is a judge, who all have a role to play now, prosecutors and judges. And if we're ever to change the criminal justice system and get some justice, we've got to be in there. We've got to be educated. And that's why we're not going to give up, because now we see what it means. Let me just tell you a little something that I tweeted, and that's this. When they go low, black women are going to law school. When they go low, black men are becoming judges. When they go low, we're not giving up. We're going to continue.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that, okay? Notice how she conveniently left out people like Clarence Thomas or any black congressman or woman that could also be an example of something that black people should aspire to, right? If they want to change the system. Well, the reason why is because what she means by change the system and to have a true democracy, what she actually really means is more power for the Democrats, right? The people that she named just happen to be black women that are going after Trump, okay? Because that's ultimately what they see as the role of these black prosecutors or black judges, which is to go after their political opponents, okay? Black people for the Democrat Party are nothing more than pawns. And she's essentially saying that out loud, okay? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, these people are not anybody that black people should aspire to want to be like, because these individuals are corrupt, okay? They are abusing and weaponizing the system. Like, for example, Alvin Bragg, the DEI DA out in Manhattan, who went out of his way to revive a case from the dead in order to, in a roundabout way, charge Trump with federal campaign violations, even though that is not his jurisdiction.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Jordan, Ranking Member Nadler, and distinguished members of the committee, it's an honor to appear before you today to discuss the critical issue of jurisdictional overreach in the prosecution of federal campaign finance law, specifically regarding the actions of Alvin Bragg, the district attorney for Manhattan, in his prosecution of former President Donald Trump. No less critical, I want to highlight the inaction by the Department of Justice to defend federal jurisdiction in this case. The Federal Election Campaign Act serves as the bedrock for regulating money in our elections. It delineates the authorities responsible for enforcing these rules, vesting exclusive jurisdiction in the Federal Election Commission and the Department of Justice. This statutory framework is designed to ensure a uniform application of campaign finance laws nationwide, preventing the creation of fragmented enforcement landscape and leveraging the expertise and resources of federal agencies. District Attorney Alvin Bragg's decision to pursue charges against former President Trump for alleged violations of federal campaign finance laws marks a significant deviation from this established legal framework. By doing so, Bragg has effectively usurped the jurisdiction that this Congress has explicitly reserved for federal authorities. This overreach sets a troubling precedent for the politicization of legal proceedings at the state level. The danger here lies in the disparate enforcement standards that torture well-established federal law processes. As an example, the state judge in New York misinterpreted federal criminal mental intent standards and gave the jury an instruction which read, willfully contributing campaign contributions, but the statutory mental intent found in the Federal Election Campaign Act is knowing and willful. Now, imagine 50 states enacting the crime of campaigning by unlawful means, and 1,000 different state and local prosecutors prosecuting presidents, former presidents, presidential candidates, and any number of House and Senate candidates under varying interpretations of FECA by bootstrapping those laws through their state's unlawful means criminal code. It is also disturbing in this case what hasn't happened over at the Department of Justice. Given the clear precedent established by the U.S. Supreme Court regarding the prohibition of state officers prosecuting federal crimes, it is perplexing that Attorney General Merrick Garland and the Department of Justice did not intervene in the prosecution of Donald Trump. The DOJ's election year sensitivity policy is designed to protect the public from being influenced by legal proceedings during an election year. Had the DOJ zealously represented the United States by intervening to protect its own jurisdiction and that of the FEC, this issue might not be the predominant one of the 2024 presidential cycle.
Yeah, so what you have there is FEC Commissioner Trey Traynor basically saying, look, Alvin Bragg is corrupt. This guy went out of his way to do something that's not in his jurisdiction, and the Department of Justice should have stopped Alvin Bragg and not allow him to move forward with prosecuting Trump, especially in an election year. But see, in an election year, the DOJ, they only go out of their way to protect Joe Biden, which is why Merrick Garland refuses to hand over the audio tape of Joe Biden, probably sounding like a senile old man, in the classified document interviews with special counsel Robert Hur. Now, my point really is this, is that could you imagine if somebody on the right, a conservative, or just a white person in general, came out and said the same thing that Maxine Waters said about what is obviously a injustice, okay, in the criminal justice system. I mean, we know what happened with that New York trial wasn't injustice. Could you imagine if somebody came out and said, hey, we need to make sure we get more white judges, white lawyers, white prosecutors in office to protect our republic, right? These people will be losing their minds. But in 2024, because some people have special rights, okay, and privileges, even though they claim they want equal rights, but what they really want is special rights, they can come out here and openly say, yeah, we need more black people in certain positions of power to help the Democrat Party, right? This is what she's saying, okay? But if you come out here and you say, hey, we need more white people in power, they'll say you're a white supremacist and that you hate blacks and that, you know, you are trying to, I don't know, protect the patriarchy or some crazy stuff. Right? This is what they'll say. I'm just getting sick and tired of one side of the aisle being able to openly say what they want to say. But when people on the right say what they want to say, or when other groups of people say what they want to say, they talk about protecting their best interests, right? Even if it's from a racial perspective. Oh, that's called racism. That's hate. That's bigotry. When to me, it sounds like what Maxine Waters is saying is hate and bigotry, right? When you talk about any type of racial superiority where you're saying that, hey, we need to have more of these people in power so that we can weaponize the system to go after our political opponents. Yeah, to me, that's a problem, right? That's a huge issue, okay? You're trying to use a race of people. You're trying to pander to them, not to benefit them, not to make the lives of black people better, but again, to use them, to do your own bidding, your own political bidding. And at what point are black people going to say enough of this, enough of us being used as pawns for the Democrat Party? Because that is what Maxine Waters is saying there. Tanya Chutkan, Letitia James, Alvin Bragg, Fannie Willis, none of these people being in power actually really helps out any black person. I'm so serious about that because that's a mindset that black people have to get out of, which is that, well, if he looks like me, then he must be operating in my best interest. And that's not the case. You don't believe me? Look at Brandon Johnson. Look at Brandon Johnson. Look at all these liberal cities, a lot of whom are run by black liberals, where you have crime out of control, migrants taking over, okay, getting help from these cities that are run by these black liberals, giving all the money to the migrants, okay, to the illegal immigrants. Education systems are terrible. Black children can't read and write. Neighborhoods are in shambles. You have more black people losing their lives at the hands of gang violence and just random murders and things like that than all the black people that were lynched during Jim Crow. You have that happening every single year, but yet nobody really seems to give a damn. But again, all of these cities where this violence is happening are ran by black liberals But they want you to think that, oh, no, you need to vote more black liberals into office, into certain positions in order for your life to get better. And that's just simply not the case. It's not the case, right, at all. What people have to really think about is not race, but it's policy. Which candidate is going to have the best policy for America? Okay, when America's doing good, everybody's doing good. When America's doing bad, everybody's doing bad. This racialized mindset that the Democrat Party has brainwashed so-called minorities with are the main reason why minorities continue to vote Democrat, even though it is to their detriment, even though these policies are hurting these people. And it's very frustrating because, again, this is the type of rhetoric that comes from people like Maxine Waters. Well, you got to vote for minorities in order to make your life better. The problem is white supremacy. No, the problem is not white supremacy. The problem is Democrat Party supremacy, right? That's actually the real issue because, again, these people are corrupt and they're not operating in the best interest of this country, which is what people actually really should be voting based off of. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.